Hey guys, hope you are getting on to the lesson, finding your way there. Need to find my World War II edition. 1 second. There we are. Hey Cheyenne, hey Ethan. So the chat should be faster. That's my goal. One of my particular goals for today. Please let me know if I'm not responding to you quickly. However, the resolution is going to be down quite a bit, just because that's what I have to do in order for it to be quicker. Question: are we taking a test for this unit? And so when is it due? We are not taking a test for this unit. There is normally a project that I have you guys do with that, but we can't do that because of the particular circumstance that we are in. And then second, we can't do that because you guys have a project due on the 17th. Oh, thanks for the happy birthday. I appreciate it. Hey, Erica. So no, we do not have a test this unit. We are dodging that, as the coronaviruses ought to dodge hand sanitizer. So, there you go. There's your answer to that. Whose birthday is it? It's the most important person's birthday. Anyways, go ahead, get the warm-up done if you haven't. I'll give you some time to do that, because there are about 5 questions on it. Then once you've done that, all we really have in here is a mini lesson. That's it. There's a short worksheet, but I will let you guys do that on your own time. So... that does not answer my question? Dude. I mean, come on. That should answer your question right there. All right. So, how are you guys all doing? What you been up to? All the things, I'm going to assume. I'm going to make sure everything stream-wise is looking okay for me. I just had to restart my computer here a minute ago, so... yeah, looks fine. Okay. It's my birthday, you goober. The most important birthday. Ethan, you can redeem yourself if you know how old I am. Also, bonus question for anyone. Yeah, how old do I feel? Right? So. Session went pretty well. My family seemed to like it. And happy birthday. Good. You're 30, I think. I'm 29. And you feel about 52. Yeah, right? I am 29. So old. I got one good year in me, and then it's just all downhill from there. So that's really just that's life. So get that warm done. In fact, I'm just gonna go see. Close enough. You got my age mixed up with Compierre's. Is he 30? Let's see. Oh man. Oh yeah, like most everybody's already done it. Cheyenne's doing it right now, so makes you feel better. My mom turned 43 today. Oh, there you go. Tell her happy birthday. He's 26. Oh, okay. He's younger than I am. When I started teaching, I was 22. So there you go. All right. Wretched World War II, 1944 to 1945. Let's actually, I didn't even see how you guys did on it. I was just seeing if you did it. Let's see. Not good from some of us. Which statement best explains how FDR reacted to the initial outbreak of World War II in 1939? He did not agree with most Americans' desire to stay neutral. He carefully negotiated his actions between many Americans' wish for isolationism and what he saw as the need to prepare for an eventual war. Yeah. So, no, he knew that, are we doing it on 8th block or 1st or both? You do it on whichever one you're in, so that way I can give you attendance. Yeah. Let's see, so not bad. Okay-ish. 44% of us got the order of events right. Atlantic Charter, good. Yeah, focus on defeating Germany first, and then we worry about Japan. Select all that applied. Casualties from the operations are high despite their relative strategic unimportance. No. The casualties, maybe the one exception to that is Italy. I mean, not to say that, like, air bombing casualties, I mean, they were decent, but the invasion of North Africa is nothing compared to, I don't know, like, you know, D-Day or something like that. So, not awful. The Allied invasion of Italy, you should have said, went well at first, but then eventually became a bloody stalemate after Germany reinforced their troops there. So that's what we should have said. Okay. Excellent. So I only looked at block 8 there, or block 1 there. I guess I'll check out block 8 real fast. I'm not going to expect that as many students are going to be on this one just because today is a beach day. Cool. So, in the meantime, as I check on this, yeah, there's only a few. Okay. We will carry on. Okay. So we are going to, again, be looking at the decisions behind U.S. strategy in the years 1944 and 1945. We're wrapping up World War II today. And then you guys will be looking at the numerous short-term and long-term legacies of World War II. Okay? So, any questions on anything so far? Could be about your Amusing the Million projects. Could be about World War II. Just any questions you have before we dive into this mini lesson. And I will wait for you to post stuff in the chat. And correct me if I'm wrong, but the latency seems much better. So. I hear water. Am I confused or incurious? No, you're seeing a turtle. Do you want to see it? Here. That way she can not die there at the school all by herself. So, there you go. So I did have to unplug my mic, so please let me know if you can't hear me well, or if my voice is sounding really strange or different. Can you hear me now? I'll go and check my Streamlabs. I had to unplug my mic, so that's why. Okay, cool, dope. So World War II. Okay, how do presidents and military leaders decide on an overall strategy in wartime? Let's do it. Okay. So let's just kind of catch ourselves up to where we are. Okay. In Europe, Germany is in control of everything except for Britain. Okay. Italy is only 50-ish% in Allied hands, and it's, again, now that Italy has switched sides and Germany is there, it is being heavily reinforced. Britain's heavily bombing is kind of ish coming to an end in 1943, and now Germany is being bombed as well. So that's kind of the picture in Europe. In Asia, okay, Japan is still controlling most of the Pacific. You can see the map up there, okay? And the reason, like, that should not look very changed from 1941. And the reason is because, again, the Atlantic Charter, like, the United States is not making any plans to do anything with Japan right now. They still have naval and air superiority over the United States by far, although that's starting to change. And then they are still in control of most of, China, Korea, etc. Okay? So it's not exactly looking great. It's just things in, like, out in the Pacific Theater, as they would call it, that's the area of fighting, is still dramatically terrible. And things in Europe still look very, very similar. Okay? So, how's it going to change? Okay, defeating Germany, Operation Overlord. Okay? This, in a lot of ways, is going to sound like the Union in the Civil War, where they just can't leave the South alone. Okay? When we are in an era now of total war, you not only have to crush Germany's armies, you have to destroy their people. Okay? I don't mean, like, actually kill them. I mean, in some cases it's going to mean that. But I mean, like, you have to destroy their will to fight. Okay? And that is why we're seeing bombings of German cities. Okay? That's something, again, like, everybody bombed civilians in World War II, which today is a war crime. But this also means that you have to go to Germany, and that means a cross-channel invasion, okay? And that is going to take a dramatic amount of planning, literally years of planning. So with all that being said, okay, when D-Day is going to happen, which is Operation Overlord, there's a whole bunch of deception that is going to go into that. It actually happens on June 6, 1944. There is, they're trying to make Hitler think that they're going to, if I go back to the map here, they're going to try to make Hitler think they're landing up here. If you can kind of see my arrow pointer in Calais, they're actually going to land over here in Normandy, okay, which is a completely different spot. And I'd love to go into more detail with that. I would tell you, if you are looking for a picture of what that was really like, go watch the first 15 minutes of Saving Private Ryan. And then just stop watching because the rest is garbage. But go watch it. It's definitely... most combat vets from World War II have said it's probably the closest thing to what Omaha Beach was like. Okay, so American troops landed at two different beaches, Utah Beach and Omaha Beach. The three other beaches where troops landed were Gold, Juno, and Sword, and that was either French, British, or Canadian troops who were landing. But what they do is they establish a beachhead, and then they will push on to Paris from there. Okay, and yeah, here you go. So here's a better map, and that's actually what that looks like. Okay. By the way, if you ever get a chance sometime in your life, go to Omaha Beach and Utah Beach. It is definitely worth your time. I've been there to both of those, and they're awesome. They're really, really cool. Yes, the deadly Canadians who are terrifying in warfare. Ethan also asked, didn't the U.S. build a freighter in a day to prove they could? Yes, you're thinking of a Liberty ship. That was like a promotional stunt. They built, I think it was maybe 4 days. I don't think it was a day. I think it was 4 days, but you can correct me if you're wrong. But anyways, all outside of that, there you go. And then they just kind of swing their way over towards, Paris from that point on. Okay. The last thing that I really want you to know about Europe is the Battle of the Bulge, which is a very, in some ways, classic Hitler tactic in some ways. So again, the Allied armies are pushing east. Hitler is going to make one last gasp attempt to basically seize control of the Western Front, and that is in the middle of the winter in 1944. It is a surprise attack with basically what is left of the Luftwaffe at that point, which is the German Air Force, tanks, and their men. And they drive through. Again, this actually involved more troops than what they invaded France with the first time, which can kind of tell you how determined they are. And the reason why they call it the Battle of the Bulge is because it makes this yellow area you can see on the map is this gigantic bulge in the map, where they're kind of pushing across, in that particular direction. Now, eventually, what's going to happen is that the Allies are going to kind of close that bulge back and shut it down. But, and this is the thing that I want to get to, is as they push into Germany, a decision is made to let the Soviet Union take Berlin. So the thing that we haven't been talking about this entire time is that in 1941, Hitler decides that he's going to invade the Soviet Union at the same time. Okay, that he's still all in control of France and attacking Britain. And the Soviet Union has been marching their way back to Berlin ever since that point. And when they are doing so, they are, in many cases, literally just torturing, raping, killing their way across Germany. And the United States Army and British Army and French Army decide that they're going to let the Soviet Union take Berlin. The reasons for this are complicated. The U.S. wanted to avoid casualties, but at the same time also the Soviet Union lost, let me make sure I get the statistic right, like 20 million people in World War II. So, they definitely paid a price. So, yeah, it's either 20 or 60 million. I can't remember. But we do need to take a moment to actually think about this. Because Berlin is a big deal, and it's going to become an especially big deal when we get to next lesson. So, do you think the United States should have taken Berlin? Now, this is going to make the Soviet Union incredibly angry, but you're going to see that this is going to give the United States a leg up in terms of preventing something that's going to happen in the Cold War, okay? So this is assuming that the United States has the foresight to think about this, right? Or do you let Russia take Berlin, but the problem is that Berlin is going to become a problem in the Cold War? I don't know. You post in the chat what you would prefer that should have happened. Should the U.S. been allowed? Should the U.S. have allowed Russia to take Berlin, or should the U.S. have been selfish and tried to take it themselves? Well, we'll see what the vote is. So Ethan is referencing something that's going to be called the Berlin Airlift. We will talk about that. Although it would have angered the Soviets and nobody wants a nuclear war. Yeah, there is that. The Soviets don't have a nuke yet, but they're on their way. They are well on their way. All right, so unless you're going to post your opinion here in the next few seconds, you're fine. We will go with the assumption that for right now, the Soviets are going to end Berlin. That is called VE Day. That's Victory in Europe. And with that, things in Germany for right now, we're just going to kind of put a pause on. Okay. So let's talk about defeating Japan. Okay. Again, with the Atlantic Charter, the United States is going to decide that it is going to focus on Germany first while playing defensive against Japan. And the U.S., obviously being the only power really in the Pacific Ocean, except for Australia, it is mostly going to be doing the heavy lifting here, nearly all of it. So it is going to be a naval war, and that's going to be a very, very different thing. So there's another question here, which you don't have to answer because I can give you the answer for this. The Pacific Ocean is filled with thousands of islands, literally, and many of them are now occupied by the Japanese. So the question is, like, if you're the United States, do you invade every single island to make sure that you root all of them out, or do you skip some? And the tactic they go with is skipping them. They have a name for this. It's called island hopping. Okay, and the reason why they do this is because they're like, we don't need to invade every island. What we do is we take the strategically important ones, and then the Japanese soldiers who are cut off are just stuck there, and they don't matter, which is a ingenious strategy. The really interesting thing coming out of this, by the way, is like 30 or 40 years after World War II ends, there are these news stories, and you can go look them up if you Google them, about Japanese soldiers getting like discovered on some of these islands, and they'd been stuck there for like 30 or 40 years, and they're like, so who won the war? And it's like, oh, yeah, forgot you were there. So you can Google some of those stories. They're fascinating to read. Because they come back to a world that's like completely changed, and it's really, really different. So there you go. That's island hopping, and that's the strategy they're going to go with. So we're going to focus on two battles here, just because this kind of gives you a good sense of what fighting in the Pacific is like. Again, if you and again, I'm not going to try to dive too much into military history, although again, it's fun. Relatively speaking. So let's talk about two. Okay, so Midway and Guadalcanal. Okay, Midway is significant because it is really, for most historians will point to as like the big turning point in the war. Okay, and the reason why is because, number one, it is the first or second, depending on your definition, battle where the opposing ships never see each other. It is completely plane to ship fighting, okay? And what happens out of this, okay, not to get too much into the weeds here, is that at Midway, the U.S. destroys 4 of Japan's aircraft carriers, okay? And also, like Japan, when they lose these carriers, the pilots that they had trained, all those ships, like, they lose all that training and all that, like, accumulated, like, aircraft time. Again, aircraft carriers are the big power in World War II. And so this is a really, really significant moment. Now, the U.S. does lose one as well, but this is a big deal. Outside of Midway, okay, and again, you can go look at Midway if you want to see how the battle actually happens. It's pretty interesting. The Battle of Guadalcanal is a really, really good example of island hopping. Okay, and if you have the chance, maybe because you're super bored and you're stuck in your house, to go watch Hacksaw Ridge. Go watch Hacksaw Ridge. Like, the battle scenes from it that I've seen are really, really accurate, in the sense that when the Japanese are on these islands like Guadalcanal, they will literally fight to the death. And most, even though these islands are very, very small, like, every step is paid for in American or Japanese blood, depending on who's going for, which one. This is where the flamethrower becomes immensely popular for, in terms of taking these things out, like Japanese pillboxes and bunkers, Japanese bonsai charges, because in Japanese World War II war culture, surrendering was thought to be dishonorable, so they will literally, when they're out of ammo, just charge with bayonets until they're all dead. This is an immensely, bloody and messy conflict. Okay, was it an overwhelming victory for the U.S. or was it a Pyrrhic victory? I'm assuming you're going to be talking about Midway or Guadalcanal. Both are. It's not a Pyrrhic victory. Nothing in World War II is really Pyrrhic. There's a couple examples that sort of are, but Guadalcanal is a big deal because the U.S. can put an airfield on it. Midway. No, it's not. Midway's a big deal. It's this sign that the U.S. really can compete with the Japanese in terms of, like, fighting. And sinking 4 aircraft carriers is nothing to shrug at. Like, that's a big deal. So the U.S. today, I think, only has 7 aircraft carriers. So, like, I believe it's 7. So, like, sinking 4, it kind of gives you a picture of, like, how significant that is. And again, like, you can't build an aircraft carrier in a day. That takes time. Cool. So, anyways, there's Midway with the little arrow pointing right there. You can see that was a big deal for protecting just Pearl Harbor. And then the blue arrows, actually, you can see the island hopping happening, which is kind of cool. Guadalcanal, by the way, is right down here if you look at the other red arrow. Okay? There you go. Island hopping, Guadalcanal. Okay, which then brings us to Japan itself. So now, okay, how can I put this? How you tackle Japan is going to be a complicated decision. Okay, so President Truman is now in the Oval Office. FDR has suffered basically a massive brain hemorrhage and has died. And when Truman is vice president, not even he was told about this, when the United States eventually gets to the point where they have marched all the way along these blue arrows, they get to the point where, like, okay, so what are we going to do about Japan? Because Japan still has not surrendered. When Truman learns about this new bomb, okay, he has no idea of how powerful it is. I mean, he's been told, but it's never been, tested in combat. He's like, okay, do we invade Japan itself, which was this hypothetical test? It was called Operation Olympia, and the predictions for that were 1 million casualties for the United States. Or do you try this new untested weapon? And the U.S. goes with the untested weapon route. Now, lots of people today, I think just because of, like, stuff like Call of Duty, like, we joke about, like, atomic bombs, like 30 kill streak and you get an atomic bomb. Like, no, like, dropping a nuke is a huge, huge, huge deal. Okay, it is probably one of the most, as I put it here on the slide, controversial decisions ever made in the history of humanity ever. Okay, and when this drops on Hiroshima, let me look up, like, the exact casualty count, because it's brutal. Hiroshima death count. I think it's 20,000. No, it's way higher. Okay, so if you count the amount of people who die after 4 months, okay, then it's anywhere between, let's see, it's somewhere around 40,000 in Hiroshima, which is crazy. I mean, like, you literally go like that and 40,000 people die. It's crazy powerful. Okay, and the nukes we have today are insanely even more powerful than this. You need to understand that whenever the United States decides to pull the nuclear sword, And then they do it again on Nagasaki after the Japanese do not surrender. And I think in Nagasaki, the casualty count is even higher. Yeah, it's 80,000 people. That's a huge deal. So all aside, the decision to go ahead and pull the nuclear sword is going to change human life in some really powerful ways that we will look at next class. Okay, and you'll also look at in the next lesson. Just know after this that after the second atomic bomb, Japan's like, okay, we quit. And that's mostly because the United States is like, okay, they dropped one, but do they have another? And then after they drop the second one, the United States says, hey, just letting you know, we got months of these, like, you know, in production. You know, they're not going to stop. And it's, yeah, I've seen the bombing museum in Hiroshima. It's crazy. Yeah, it is. I've heard, I have not been, but it's a big deal. So, how you guys are going to end the lesson? So on slide 15, there is a video that I'd like you to watch. Okay. Please let me know if it's blocked. I'll figure it out. How did World War II set the stage for the modern era? How did it affect U.S. citizens? Where should the U.S. go after all this? These are all going to be questions the United States is going to have to deal with. And then the last thing, okay, on the very last slide, slide 17. Okay, we've got 6 sources here. Okay, and I just want you to look at each source, break it down, okay, into 10 words. And what these are legacies of World War II. Okay, and so if I click down here on this worksheet, okay, I'm going to use all of these areas. Make a copy of it. These are going to be some really powerful legacies of World War II. Okay, so if you look here, okay, I've got these circles now on my screen. Anything that's a short-term legacy, in 10 words or less, I'm going to put in a circle. Anything that's long-term, I'm going to put in a box. Now, what's the difference between short-term and long-term? Short-term means like immediately it happens. Long-term is like something we're still having to live with today in some way, shape, or form. Okay. Now, if a long-term and a short-term legacy are connected, you're going to draw an arrow between those two things. And so right here, if you see, I've got a little icon. Okay, and I'll zoom it in so you can see. It's right here. It's this little shape. I can either do it with an arrow, that would be fine, or I personally prefer doing a scribble. Okay, because I think that's easier, just drawing with the touchpad, or a curve. So you can pick whatever tool you want to use there, and that's what you're going to turn in on this. You can turn it on today's Canvas lesson if you would like to. Okay, I'm not going to collect it, but just know that eventually short-term and long-term legacies of World War II are going to become relevant for some kind of assessment that we're going to do at some point, you know, sometime. Okay, other than that, that's all I've got for you guys today. So I'm going to go ahead and take a minute, just like sit here, see if you guys have any questions before I kind of let you do the rest of the lesson on your own. So I will give you 30 seconds to respond, and then I'm going to have to decide what I'm going to do for the rest of the afternoon. When is that due? 17th? I think the drawings are due on the 17th. I don't know if I'm collecting... Let me see if I'm collecting the worksheet real fast. I might be. I can't remember. Can somebody remind me if I put down on the slides if you're collecting the legacy thing? I think I am. I'm scared that I may have mistold you. I do believe that it is due. Okay, quick inquiry about a show, and if it is, for what accurate and what actions of the character of Man in the High Castle. Oh, it's not. Man in the High Castle is all what we call counterfactual history, meaning like it's what if this happened, which means it's not accurate at all, right? Of course, it says slide homework. Okay, so yeah, then it's not due, but again, doing it is going to help you. Just continuing your homework, the drawings. Yep, you got it. So there you go. Looks like you guys got it fine. All right. Well, unless you guys have anything else, I'm gonna go ahead and get going. I'm probably gonna go for a run or something, although it's probably chilly outside. I don't know. I've got a little bit of free time, so hope you guys have a good day. Hope you're staying healthy. All that good stuff. Yeah. So. I will peace out here unless you guys have anything, any goodbyes or anything you want to type. Well, Ethan, I can't answer that question about Man in the High Castle. I can't tell you if it's accurate because it is an alternative history. So, yeah, it's like me asking to say, like, you know, what would I like? Is me being good looking in an alternative universe accurate? And of course, no, we don't know. So, right back at you. Have your oh, thanks, appreciate it. Yep. Hopefully, it'll be a good birthday. By good, I mean I'll stay in my house and not do anything. All right, I'll see you guys later. Have a good rest of your day. Chill out. Have fun. Take a break. Go outside, play.